Hello all. So here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we've been having the worst forecasts we've had ever since I lived here. And that was when I moved here. It was 1963. Last year's forecasts were bad enough, but this year's are just so off. So several days ago we were supposed to have a rainstorm, wind and rain and all that. And of course it didn't show up, and then the next day it was forecast a little less, and then the next day it was a little less, then the next day it still hadn't showed up, but it was supposed to be here, and maybe some wind and drizzle. Well, we got a little bit of drizzle that next night, but then it cleared up and no rain. And then 2 days ago we had another forecast of rain coming that night, but it never showed up. The next day, which was yesterday, of course it didn't show up then either. And then today it was supposed to show up, clear sky. Now it's supposed to show up tomorrow. The worst forecasting I have ever seen in the Bay Area, ever. It's supposed to get 74 today. It probably will, and even may break some heat records. So I wanted to sort of just continue on going around the world, seeing what climate change is doing to our planet. Let's talk about Australia. Climate change is getting worse in Australia, with extreme fires, droughts, and cyclones. 2019 to 2020 was their hottest year on record. Australia has warmed by an average of 1.44 degrees C, or 2.59 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's quite alarming. It is really quite alarming, because not only is the Arctic and the Antarctic warming at extremely fast pace, but now Australia, California, and places like España is warming up very quickly. They found that the oceans around Australia are warming at an alarming rate as well. Over the same period, from 2019 to 2020, the oceans warmed 1 degree C. In that short a time, the Great Barrier Reef has suffered 3 massive bleaching events in the last 5 years. But even with all that information out there, Australia knows that it's getting hotter and has known it for years. So why the conservative, non-climate believing government? Prime Minister Scott Morrison has committed to keeping Australia as one of the world's leading fossil fuel exporters. Almost 90% of all Australians believe in climate change. 90% believe in it. But yet they put in a conservative government that doesn't believe in it. But there is some good news here in the U.S. The governor of Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, took action to shut down the old Enbridge Line 5 oil and gas pipeline in the Great Lakes. So that's going to be decommissioned and gotten rid of. They'll probably just put a new one in its place, but at least it's a new one versus an old haggard one that was put in 1953 and is still being used today. They say if that line was to rupture, it would cause one of the worst disasters that the Great Lakes has ever seen. And the Great Lakes have seen some major disasters. So here in the U.S., over 60% of the population believe that the climate is changing and needs to be addressed soon. But almost 50% vote in Trump, who's just exactly the opposite, doesn't even believe in climate change. What is happening to the human brain? Is it gone? Is it kaput? Nutty? Nutso? So let's go up on a hill over here and take a look and see if the rain is going to end up showing up here in California or not.